Welcome to the Purpose Driven Executive Podcast, where we help you go from making your work your life to making your life work. We share true stories, interviews, and experiences that will help you, the hero, in your quest for passion and purpose. Higher purpose, higher productivity. This is the Purpose Driven Executive Podcast. What's up, people of purpose? You know it's my job to care for you, to tend to you, to bring to you the people that are going to matter. And I have brought someone to you that you're going to love, you're going to enjoy. She really is excellent at helping people to graduate to the next level. Here it is, as of the recording, it is April 2020. And we have a lot of people, including my son, high school and my daughter in college, that graduation is a little bit obscure right now. But with Keziah Robinson, I hope I said that right.
You did indeed. Thank you.
So Keziah, welcome to the show. Before we get into what you do, tell us, what do you love?
Oh my goodness. Well, the Red Sox. So speaking of things that are not on right now, I live in Boston. I love being outside and being in physical spaces with people. So I think there's a lot of things I'm realizing I love that are very important to me right now that because I don't have them. But I don't know if you believe in the 5 love languages and that, but I'm a person where it's quality time. My number one is quality time. So I just really love being with my clients, being with my friends, being with family, and just really being in the community and just really having that quality time with other people. So it's been different right now, but it's still a wonderful opportunity to connect with people, including yourself. I'm really enjoying having quality time with you as well, Tony.
Look at that. Look at how we make that happen.
Exactly.
Okay, so let me transition a tiny bit. Keziah, who do you love? And I know we love family, we love those people, but in the world at large, who are the people that you would say these are my zone, these are the people that I love to serve? Who would those be?
Oh, well, I love all my clients. So this is one of the things. My mom, I came from a big family, and I know you have a big family, but my mother, she said, I love you all equally. Depending on the day, some of you I like more than others. And so I say that with my clients, I love them all equally. Depending on the day, some of them I like more than others. Which if they're listening, you're the one I love and like, trust me. But I really love working with business owners who, they kind of know some level that they're playing small ball. Like that they see a little glimmer in themselves of the greatness. They're always oriented towards other people. That's something that's also very important to me, is that they can see beyond themselves. They have causes they care about. They're just people oriented in the sense that they're service oriented. They seek to serve others. And I really love that, because there's so much money to be made in serving other people. That is actually what you get paid for.
Yes.
Creating value and serving other people. That's what you get paid for.
Yes.
And so if you're really going at it, how do I create the greatest amount of service for the greatest amount of people? That is going to be a profitable business. And so that's really, for me, I love people who are thinking like that. And I always say, if somebody's not on that wavelength and they're trying to kind of manage a smaller scale, just someone else's Prince Charming. Nothing Prince or Princess Charming. And I wish them well. But I'm really looking for those people who want to level up.
That is awesome. I want to dig into that, because I think that you're talking to a lot of those people right now. Yeah. There are always lines, right, to jump over and across. We have to throw a heart over a bar. And it's not just courage, but there's strategy that goes along with that. Mm-hmm. But before we go there, wait, large family? Talk to me.
Yeah, no, I'm one of 5. Unfortunately, I have a sister who died when I was very young. But yeah, we all have. We were talking, because you have your children also have interesting names. We all have biblical, sort of old-fashioned biblical names. And we grew up in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom place. It was cozy. Growing up. So So that's one of those things. So I'm at least I'm used to being in enclosed spaces with other people.
Yes. And so many questions I have about that. But, we have eight. So amazingly, they are, I think about the crimes that are committed that a police would like. If we were to call the cops, we probably could have most of them in jail on each other, right?
Disturbing the peace, at least.
Yeah,
You could absolutely get that, but yeah.
So take me into this person that they're looking. They know they're playing small. Keziah, has that ever been you?
Oh, of course. I mean, it's still there. I gotta tell you, there are days when it's still me, right? And I didn't want to do any public speaking. I only, people would invite me to do things. And I go, well, I didn't write a book. I don't have, and finally I kind of made a commitment, and I have a coach, which most coaches have coaches. And one of the things that she pointed out to me was, just say yes. Just start with yes. Just say yes to everything. Start before you know how to do it. If you wait until you know how to do it, it's impossible. Kids don't learn to walk by knowing how to walk, right? They get up, they fall down, they get up, they fall down. Eventually you figure out how to walk, but you only figure out how to walk by doing it. So I started saying yes. Somebody asked me to be on podcasts. I started saying yes. People start asking me to do, more panel speaking. And that was a big thing for me, to really get out there and say, oh, God, I have a message I want to take to a broader community. I can't necessarily coach one-on-one. I can't coach everybody one-on-one. Though I encourage, everyone, coaching is fantastic, and I absolutely encourage people to seek it out, but I can take a message out and I can share that with people. So that's been step one, phase one, TED Talk next week. No, but it's in the plan now, right? It's something I'm putting in the plan and looking at what are the messages that I would want to bring at that scale. So
I love it. Actually, hold on.
Yeah.
I've got my office because and for those of you who are listening, you won't be able to see this, but that's one of the things. This guy that's me speaking, but I'm not but here I am. So in the future, that's one of my deals too. Very near future. I love the synergy there. But how did you come to realize that those were your people? Because there's a lot of people you can help to get better, right?
Absolutely.
Better. Like how did you figure out that's who I love?
As all things, I had a client and who I really, really like, right? So somebody I love as a person, friends with them, I really like them, but they were always canceling and deferring and this and that. And I started to realize, I was like, do you really want things to be different? And they had a small business, couple employees, and they were talking about growing. And I was like, but do you really want things to be different? Because if you wanted things to be different, you wouldn't cancel on me, right? You need an extra hour in your week or an hour and a half in your week. I'm not the person you would cancel on, because every time we did meet, he would get a boost of efficiency for the next couple of days, right? And get an enormous amount more done. So there was no logic to it. And I just started to realize, I was like, he's happy enough. It's not bad enough. And I don't wish it to get bad for him. And I decided to kind of say, you know what, he doesn't really want this business to be much bigger. He wants his life to be maybe 10, 15, 20% easier, 20% better. And I'm like, it's a lot of work to go into coaching. As you know, there's a lot of deep work. You have to face a lot of things about yourself that you don't really want to, and you have to make behavior change. And that takes practice. So if you are only trying to move 10, 15%, it's not going to be worth the energy investment for you. You want to move 100, 200, 10,000%, right? If you're coming from zero, infinite percent on a business, then that's a minor energy investment. It totally makes sense. So that was something I had to start asking and say, just because I know you could be fantastic and great, this might not be the moment for you. Let me tell you, you can be great. Let me make sure you know that I believe it, but you come back to me when that's the right moment for you.
Hey, thanks for being someone who is on this journey of purpose with me. And I am with you, my friend, and I've got something for you. Have you ever been moving towards purpose and sometimes it just looks like a big mess? Sure you have. We all have. And the reality is we're usually not going to get to a destination unless we have a roadmap. And that's exactly what I've created. If you will go to purposedrivenexecutive.com, you can get it for free. And this is the culmination of all of my studies, all of my coaching, all of even my own personal living. And I've created a very visual, very easy way for you to map out your purpose. This is for you. This is for people you're leading. This is for your family. Go on over right now, purposedrivenexecutive.com, and get your free map of purpose. I love that. And that's okay, right? It's okay that not everyone's a fit for you. And let's kind of dig into that a tiny bit, because Keziah, I feel like that a lot of us, we go and we serve people, but we're not specific enough with who we want. And that happens with, certainly with coaching, me, or with people who provide services, because there's a scarcity mindset maybe, but it also happens with leaders, that they're bringing whoever they can into their team, and some don't want to move. So can you address that a little bit?
Well, I think you're right, hitting on, the nail on the head with the idea that it's a scarcity mindset. And we start thinking that we're scarce on not just the resource, but we're scarce on time. Like we have to have somebody right now. And my experience has been, you'll figure it out. Usually you can muddle through, or there's a very obvious resource that you've written off, right? A bookkeeper. The number of people who are just like, well, I don't want to, and I'm like, or they go, I had a bookkeeper once, they weren't very good. And I'm like, okay. That's like saying, you got a bad haircut once. You went to some super cuts and got a bad haircut. It's like, well, how much were you trying to pay the bookkeeper? Oh, you wanted somebody who would do it on Upwork for $15 an hour. No wonder the bookkeeper wasn't very good. So sometimes it's just kind of getting people into especially with a leader like that, or someone who's has employees or is trying to bring a team together, is to get that sense like, do you really need them? Do you really need them now? And to fight that scarcity mindset that really puts people in a place where they're trying, they're just trying to squeeze to attract all the things they don't need. And so I actually do a pretty intensive piece of work with people on building if you're a service-based business, your ideal client, or it can be your ideal business partner. Sometimes people are trying to attract or investor. And what we do is kind of go through, all right, let's go through your history with people. What are the things that you really value? What do you not like? A lot of times people come in and say, I don't like X. One of them is, pixel perfect. I don't know if you've heard that expression, but it's when somebody goes through, and I had it from a web developer client, and it's when somebody goes through like every single pixel, and they want this color changed, they want this, that, and whatever. And he says, I can't do it. I don't want any. But he started with, I need to hire somebody to deal with these bad clients. And I said, well, what if we just didn't have bad clients? And it's like, well, that's not possible. I was like, well, how much market share do you have? It's like, you're not Coca-Cola. Like someone else can have your bad client, and you can have good clients, all good clients. So doing that work is very hard for people. So we have to talk about what is a good client. And so he was like, don't want the pixel perfect. And I'm like, great. So what do you want? He's like, not pixel perfect. I was like, no, what do you want? Right. And then it becomes, and then he sort of was like, I want someone who cares, blah, blah. And then he was like, well, I want someone who just does what I say. I was like, no, you don't. I've seen you work. You don't want that. What do you want? And he finally he said, I want clients who value, I think he said, function and user experience, because he's in web development, right? And those are the two things he really believes. The website's your central marketing resource. It's where people come. How do you make it really functional? And you make it functional for the user, right? The most important person who's coming to that site. And I was like, that is something we can, and then we'll do questions. What are the types of questions you can ask when you're bringing in clients to get a sense of how they feel about it? And how do you clearly communicate that that's going to be important? That's what you, and put message for that. And it's been, unfortunately we've hit this road bump right now, but he, within about a week, had a new client where he had, and changed his pricing strategy, all of that. And it was just like, it was great to see that it worked. He had that positive feedback.
Yes.
It's sort of amazing.
Yes. It's interesting is you get what you expect, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we don't know that we can have like ideal, we just take whatever walks across the mat. And I love, like, when you're saying that, like, I'm kind of grabbing like the Seth Godin
Mhm.
mentality where he's like, like, don't think about how many people, think about how few people, like, what's the smallest number that you really need to be like stark raving in love with you? And let's like stop worrying about the masses. And the reality is are there enough of those people who are not pixel perfect? like as I'm hearing you,
Yeah.
that's going to be my new saying.
Yeah.
I love that mindset. Keziah, how do we know this? How do we know if we're playing small ball? Like, is there a thought that might be bouncing around in our head? Is there something that we're looking and seeing and we're knowing? Like, what, like when you see this, what are the triggers? Like, how can we tell if we're in that spot?
Well, there's sort of two ends of it, which is interesting. So usually you're not making enough money, right? That's one
Okay.
end, right? Whatever you're doing, it's like you're working as hard as you can. And even if you may have a team, but you're still working as hard as you can and you're not making the kind of money, right? And then that often happens, like they had a lot of growth and then all of a sudden it'll top out. I remember I had a lawyer I did a little work with, and he had like 10 people under him. He was the only partner, and he's like, I can't work any harder and we're not growing, right? And it had to do with delegation, it had to do with his actual goals and whether he wanted this to be a bigger, all this stuff that got into it. And ultimately he didn't want to make the change, right? I think he might, right? I always say, you can come back, you know where to find me. The other one are people who they're good at making the money, right? They're hustling, they're this, they're that, but they're the ones always saying, well, when I retire, or I need to make enough money, then I'm going to buy this, then I'm going to do that.
Ooh.
And those are hard to work with, because and I had a guy I was talking to, and he's like, well, I'm going to do this. I got to sell this business so I can buy this, that, I need to make this business, and going through this thing, I'm going to buy some real estate. I think the market's going to crash and all this stuff. And I was like, where's this going? He says, well, eventually I'm going to retire. I was like, what are you going to do when you retire? Because I was like, do you think you're going to sit on the beach right now? He's like, well, I want to move back. I want to move to Europe, and and I was like, what are you going to do? He's like, I don't know. I'll figure something out. Like, well, you want to work on that? Because why the hell are you doing all these little bits and pieces right now? Right?
Yes.
That's the other one where they're good at making money, but they're afraid to go for something. They don't think they want anything. They think they just want the money.
Mm.
And I think that's where when you multiply those two together is when the big money comes and the big impact comes. And for some of those, when I engage with them, they can't. I say, look, maybe you need to go make your millions, and then you know where to find me or find somebody else. But if you're really fixated on these like plans, but I'll call that kind of person, you got to tell them straight out you're playing small ball, because otherwise
So
they tend to have thick skins, but you tend to need them, knock them upside the head a little, give them a love tap, as they say.
so Northeastern girl, I'm sure you don't mind
Yeah.
doing that occasionally. Um, I have found, and I would love to hear your opinion on this, that
Mm-hmm.
that productivity and purpose really are interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
That when one is working from the place of what they believe, who they are, what their gifts are, hopefully methods that align with those gifts, in serving the people that they want, that they have a heart for, that they become uncopyable and unstoppable. As long as, again, like as long as they have right business practices and those type of,
Yeah.
but productivity flows from purpose. And on the same side of that, you can't necessarily have purpose without having some sort of cash flowing towards that, some sort. What do you see in that? Am I on? Am I off? What's
Well, absolutely. I always say, like, it's going to be tough. What we know is that any entrepreneurial effort, look, life throws you a lot of curveballs, right? And the hardest thing we do is we make more trouble for ourselves. Like, there's already a bunch of trouble coming our way. We make more trouble for ourselves. And the thing about purpose is it gets you to stop making trouble for yourself.
Mm,
Like, that is really it. Because if you think
explain that.
about the stuff, like, I'm too busy,
Oh,
I'm too busy. And it's like, no, you're not, right? You're spending your time in inefficient ways, right? That's what read the 4 hour work week, right? I'm not I kind of think that got cult status, but no, I mean, you're not too busy. And I like to talk to people about energy, like energy management, because I'm like, look, time, we get all fixated on money. We get all fixated on, we think of it as a zero sum game, even though that's not really
yes.
how money works. But I'm like, nobody no good person is going to say, you can't feel good, I can't feel good, we can't both have energy together. So I work with people a lot on how do you actually manage the return on your energy
Okay,
invested
go
and
there.
boost
Go there with
that.
me right now. I want to hear this
Okay.
return energy. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like a matrix where I have people and they start with tasks, but we also do it with relationships. And I'm like, let's put like, what are the restorative activities where you don't have to put a ton of energy in and they make you feel good and you get energy back, mental energy, emotional energy, however you want to, physical energy, whatever. I was like, so let's put those in there. And you'd be surprised how many people, I'm like, put sleep in there. And they're like, I don't even get that. And I mean, it can be, it's tough. Sometimes people really come in, they've been running themselves so hard. And then what we do is we look at, who are your high maintenance kind of, what are your, like I call them your challenges. Whether it's a task, it's a challenge. With a relationship, it's more a high maintenance person. But it's one where it's like running a marathon. Like it might be restorative to run 3 miles every day, but it's a challenge to run a marathon, but you still get a positive energy out of it. It just takes a lot of investment.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, a lot of times you can shift those into the more restorative, right? So how do we maybe do that if you're still feeling stretched? It's hyper competitive people sometimes are taking on more challenges than they need to, and they're manufacturing challenges, like taking on difficult clients just to be able to have a difficult client. So that's some of it. But I really focus on below the line, the negative energy. And I'm like, you got one box, which is your minor annoyances. And then, it's like deleting email or the client who like you always have to remind to pay, stuff like that. Supply chain management, if you have an issue there, it's like stuff that doesn't derail you, but it sucks. It's like a little bit energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing are your energy drains and your energy vampires.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to come to terms with those. So that's a very long-winded way of basically saying we go straight into that and go there and start to pick. It's like one thing. Pick one thing to take off that list. Pick one relationship that you don't need to have with a client, especially when you're dealing with clients. But pick one. Let's take it off and then number one, like who else could do this when you have delegation problems? It's like, really, you have to be the person to like pack your kids' lunch. You are the only person who can do this. Right. So that's a practicing kind of what is the delegation skill, and then what's your block on delegation, which is usually you don't want to, you feel important, right? And you don't want to stop feeling important. With relationships, a lot of it is about how do you change that dynamic and how do you come to terms with like why this is a bad use of your energy. So we'll go into what could you do if you weren't talking to that client, right? Or that customer. What happens after you get off the phone with that employee? Do you get up and pick up the phone and call 2 more people? Do you service with a smile for the next person who walks in or calls your customer service line? Yeah. Or do you need to go get a coffee, complain to somebody on WhatsApp, go to the water, maybe go get a drink, go home early, take a nap, all these things? I'm like, that is costing you so much. And if you just look at the money, you'll think that client is profitable. When you add it all up, you just look at the time. You don't write down the time you spent complaining at the water cooler. Right? We don't think of it. The time you spent sending the 5th invoice and thinking about in the shower for half an hour about how much you were using up all the hot water, annoying everyone else in your family, thinking about how much you can't stand this person and they never seem to pay you on time. It's crazy that we do this to ourselves. So that's the big thing. I'm like, let's cut the drains. Let's cut the drains.
So good. That is so, yeah. That is so, and here's the thing, and I'm sure you've seen this, right? You get a leader and maybe you can talk to this person. Yeah. You need to have a little bit of a hero complex, right? Oh yeah. And the reality is everyone comes to them, all the time. And then they complain, well, everyone always is coming to me. But the reality is they like the rush that they solved something, even if it was small, yeah. Right? But what is that keeping you from? But I guess like where I'm seeing this is like, it's almost like someone's planting a garden, Keziah, but before they plant it, they see all of these green things that are in there. Now these green things are weeds. Mm-hmm. And the truth is we like what you're saying, I'm hearing you say, get rid of the bad so that you have space for the good and you'll actually have life and energy. but that can sound counterintuitive or feel counterintuitive. How do you strategically walk me? I'm a business owner. I'm playing small ball. I'm afraid to let loose of these things. Maybe it's being the hero or whatever. Walk me through letting some of these things go, or maybe tearing these things out so I can move forward into the bigger things.
Absolutely. And I was in a group coach training. One woman came out of mediation and family therapy, and super interesting. And she said, you got to task the brain sometimes.
Okay.
People are, I like this, and I got this from another coach as well. I steal things from everybody, just FYI.
Yeah.
I'll be stealing half the things you told me on this podcast. Don't worry. But he said people are emotional, will get emotional when they should be logical, and they'll try to bring logic when they should be emotional.
Ooh.
So one of the things is I say, all of these drains, we think they're happening to us, right? We set it up, we use language. I'm big on language. Like, no, I had somebody saying once, my brain is cluttered full of, I said, it's your brain. So if it's cluttered, you put it in there. So let's use my words. Let's not say treat it like it's a third party. So some degree to just like the working the language, but then really going, here's the meat, like having people write this out, and like we'll do it on a whiteboard. I'll give them an assignment to take home, filling things in, and then I'll break down. Okay, they'll say, I don't like scheduling. I had someone once who didn't like scheduling. Well, it actually was the issue that there's interpersonal dynamics between two of their sites. And so when somebody was missing from one site, they'd have to redo all of the staffing. And then there were people who didn't get along. I was like, so the issue now is not that, right? And so sometimes it's just unpeeling, and that kind of exercise where you really just put it in front of somebody and keep walking them one step at a time. Okay, let's one step at a time. What is really the issue? Okay, do you really dislike the scheduling? Is that just annoying? And then the actual energy drain is the managing interpersonal dynamics. Okay, how do you how did you contribute? And so we can just keep one step at a time, because if you jump to, you have a savior or hero complex, that's toxic to your work environment, you're not letting your team actually develop that's a no-go. But if we can start one piece at a time, then you can get, and by that point, you might be 1 or 2 sessions. It could, for some people, takes a long time. I'm really adaptive to like, what is it you need? But by the time you get through that, usually they're starting to say to themselves, yeah, I do always feel like I need to take care of people. And then we can talk, well, how would you take care of people? What does taking care of look like that isn't a savior complex?
Yes. I love, by the way, and for those of you listening, like, listen to the way a good coach does this. Most of us want, like, give me this drug, like, give me this answer, give me this method. But oftentimes what I'm hearing you say is that this isn't like, it's not what you think it is. There's something probably a layer or two deeper, and let's actually figure that out. And when we figure that out, we can actually have something that remains. And I love the questions there. Keziah, take us here. 2020. This is the year of coronavirus, right? There's something that you do really well, and that is helping others to communicate price and value. And I want to hear, first off, how should that be done? Next off, in scenarios where there is stress and turmoil and all of the things that we have going right now, how should that be done today?
Absolutely. One thing, and you would be surprised, but I know even we've probably had this experience, you need to know what your value is. You need to actually be able to articulate what the value is and to whom. So that can sometimes be a real big challenge. I'm real, like, one thing I try to be clear on is you get paid for the value that you create above and beyond the next best alternative.
Yes.
Okay. And it's the customer's next best perceived next best alternative, right? They think they can get a deal. They don't even know if they can get a deal, but they think they can get a deal, which is why that customer selection is so important, because you don't want to deal with somebody, usually, we're not commodity providers. We have special sauce, we're we're selling something that's really special. And so you don't want a client who always thinks they can get a deal someplace else. That person is always going to be haggling on price. You want somebody who maybe they don't care about they don't feel like a sucker if they realize later they could have saved 10% going someplace else. It doesn't bother them.
Mm-hmm.
Or you are able to communicate the difference in value. And that's really, so sometimes I'm like, you need to know, are you better? Like, are you actually better than other people? If you're not, then you need to work on that first.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So if you are actually, and you need to know what their alternatives are, you need to start to think about what is the value that creates. And I always say, start thinking from the first time. Like, what is the value? And right now, this is super important. You send an email, you make a phone call to somebody, right? I'm not, I don't love to cold call. It's not something I do, but I would say lukewarm LinkedIn and email contacts. People I know, or someone suggested I speak with them, things like that. What's the value of that email, right? Well, if it's, hey, can you get on the phone and I will buy something from me? There's no value to the person in there.
Mm-hmm.
What's the value of the email of how are you doing? One thing I just say is, can't imagine what it's like at insert name of your company, or like for you right now. You're not trying to tell them how they feel, but I just hope you're well. I saw I saw you at this conference last year, and you were so prescient about what's going on in the world. Whatever. I read an article, I was thinking of you. Like that, everyone wants to hear that they're special, that they're important. I often say, your name came up in conversation. That's a great way, even if you brought the name up in the conversation, right? Hey, so-and-so, should I reach out to them? Or, this distributor, like, should I reach out to them? Well, hey, guess what? Their name came up in conversation. So there's a lot of ways that you can think about what's the value right now of just that initial conversation. Yeah. Like that contact, what's the value of the conversation? They may not have information. You have information on their competitors maybe, or you have information on resources, especially for smaller businesses right now. I'm going to know more about a lot of your resources than you are, because this isn't what you do for a living, right?
Exactly.
So to kind of really be focused on what is the value that you create at each one, and what are you looking for at each step. So if you do marketing, what is the behavior you're looking? So what's the value of your marketing campaign to someone? Let's say you're selling a product, right? You're providing them information, and also what do you want them to do so you can track. And so you start to actually see, like, as you get towards the price point, the point of transaction, you understand, okay, really, what is the value? So what are the examples I'm going to use? And right now, maybe it's more about cost saving, right? If you're in a certain service, it's going to have to be it's going to be more dollar and less psychic benefit. However, for some people, especially lower dollar points, it's going to be more psychic benefit because people want to feel good. So you have to, and you can start to think about what's if I'm going to save you cash right now, like this month you spend $100 with me and you're going to save $200, guess what? I can sell you that in a heartbeat. Okay. So, however, if it's going to spend now and later, and that, you have to work on that communication.
So I'm hearing you, I love it. I'm hearing you say, so first off, knowing your value, and to who. By the way, that's a book, right? Just that one idea there. The next one is actually communicating in a way that's relevant to right now. Now what? Now what? Where do we go? Like, what does that look like in today's economy? So I'm communicating it. I know my value. I'm communicating it. I'm educating the masses. Right. How do I finish it?
It has to be worth their time and money. Like, so even though and worth their energy, I won't say really, but that is the close. So you're out there. There's a big enough market. I was talking to a realtor. He's I don't know, 60. He's done very, very well. Has a good size office with a bunch of other realtors who work for him, and with his business partner. And one of the things, he was like a little, it was right when it hit, and he's like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, how many houses were sold in Massachusetts? And it was like, once we get down to it, I said, let's take a 75% haircut. Let's do this. And you get down to it. And it was still like tens of thousands of houses. And I said,
Right.
how many do you need to be break even
Yes.
at your office? And he goes, 50. I said, you think you can't get 50? Are you not, you're better than other realtors.
Yes. In that space. Like it's
Yeah.
when you find your space, that's where you can
Right.
do better. There's a
Yeah.
book that someone recently recommended, and I'm really bad because I read like 7 books at a time or listen to them, and it's Blue Ocean Strategy.
Okay.
And in it, the author mentions, he says that we lose when so the red oceans, I guess, are full of blood. It's where everyone is. Blue oceans, you're by yourself. And the idea is, he says, don't be the competition. So if you're just one of the competition, now it's always going to be a bake-off. It's always going to be about price. But if we put ourselves into a place that we can be an alternative. Now, how are you the alternative? And like a lot of what the lights are going with that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So what do you see right now, Keziah, in terms of being the biggest challenge, the biggest limiter, the biggest thing that's keeping people in their corner instead of stepping out, reaching out, and being more?
We've been told that we can't be that. Some voice somewhere tells us that, who do we think we are? I think that is, who do I think I am to try to make money in a crisis? I have a client who, she was in the restaurant events and she ended up starting a meal kit service, right? To kind of, and it's going pretty well. And it's not obviously not replacing all her income, and she hasn't, she had employees that she had to furlough and stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. It's not like it's perfect, but within a week she had figured out a way to come up with another business, which is fantastic. That would just help a little bit. And she's like, well, I feel bad, like that this business, that I'm wanting the quarantine to last longer. And I was like, what? You're providing a service. People want this. You have nothing to do with this quarantine. You're taking advantage of the opportunity because you're creating value. Okay. If this business doesn't work, you have other businesses, you have this. And I was like, and if we took every business, she's a natural entrepreneur. I was like, if we scrapped every business you've ever been in, none of them could ever exist again. You would still, within a week, you would have something else. So, but that's the kind of thing that we get in front of, we stand in our own way because we've been told that we're not supposed to stand out, right? That we're not supposed to be special. And if we are, we have to be perfect. And it's like, there's room for all of us.
Love it. This has been so good. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're gonna send off. But I know you do some speaking. I know that's the thing for you. I know that you work with other people who do that, and there are a lot of people who are in this world saying, "How do I adjust?" And so, where do you see the pivot for people who count on that for their livelihood?
On people who count on being physically present?
Yeah. I'm physically present at all these conferences. And now, at the very least, like it's been stopped for a little while, but it's also, there's no question, something is going to change. There's going to be somehow, some way it's going to change.
Well, go back to where's the greatest value and for whom? Ooh. And so this is a time to get old, everyone's rushing towards all this digital. We need to be online. And I'm like, that's great because that's a good distribution platform. It's wonderful to create content, helps you learn about yourself and build the book. Right now I'm like, oh, maybe I should write a book. I haven't thought of that. But a lot of it is like, who do you want to do business with? Cement those relationships. Find your kindred spirits. Find the people where you can create value for them. You can give something to them. They may not be able to pay you, but there'll be other things you can exchange. And it's like, go out and find those people and cement those relationships. And so I really think it's going back a little more old school and really, if you're speaking, okay, you can't get 50 people, get 10 people on a webinar and really be there with them and let them talk to each other. Let them bring it forward. And banish the negative. Everybody, there's no solution to a feeling. I had a rough week. Like sometimes you just need to roll with it. But if somebody's bringing a lot of negativity, they're checking the news, telling you how many people are done, just put them in cold storage. Stop responding to the calls. Don't look at the text. Mute the notifications, whatever. It just, you have to kind of protect yourself that way. And I think if you're in this person to person, is get really clear on who you want to talk to, bring them in and really be there for them. And I think so, yeah, instead of 100 people, you might only talk to 10, but those 10 people are never going to forget that conversation. They're never going to forget that speaking event, that thing that they saw you at, because it was very real.
I love that. I feel like that this is the age of innovation, and it is the day in the moment of the person who cares. And what you just described was finding your community, finding your tribe, reaching out, just giving, loving. And the reality is when we're doing that, whoever has the most friends in the end wins. We're all on a journey together, and we need other people to help us to get there, and they need help too. And that's a beautiful place. So I'm going to ask you to speak to your crowd just one more time, just like give us something where I'm playing small. Look, this guy right here, I'm playing small. I know I could get to another level. And I know that I've been responding to fear. I've been responding to busyness. I've been responding to, I don't know, nobody would blame me if I said COVID-19. I'm responding to all of these things that are keeping me in a place where I'm not growing like I could and like I should. Speak to my purpose, and then tell us where we can find you.
Well, I think the question is always, what do you want? Like, when you leave this mortal coil, like, right, what do you want to have gotten done? That's always the thing. Is in legacy, right, it's not about, like, legacy is about what lasts beyond you. Someone's like, what do you want to have gotten done, and what do you want how to last beyond you? And so, especially like the people, like you're saying, that who are listening to this, and that is, and who are, I mean, if you're listening to the Purpose-Driven Business Executive Podcast, right, we're we're preaching to this choir. So what do you really want to get done? Going back to those goals, those values, the vision is the thing that gets you through the fear, right? It's the thing, and accepting it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to freak out. But I got a lot of years ahead of me. Even if you're 95, you got a lot of life ahead of you. So what do you want to have done? And what do you want to send forth into the future? And write it down. Say it to yourself. Do all that, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and goddamn it, people like me. Do whatever you need to do. But when you keep that through, you'll still have bad days, but they will be shorter, they will be fewer, and you will be able to kind of lift yourself up and lift other people up in this environment. So that's what I would say to someone who's going through it. And oh, absolutely. It's great. Easy to find me on LinkedIn. I might be the only Keziah Robinson. I'm certainly going to show up probably towards the top. I also, you can find my website, www.Keziah, CASSIA-partners.com. And you can find me on Facebook as well under Keziah Partners. So.
Love it. You heard it here. Listen, focus on your people. Figure out your value. Fellow coach and productivity expert who is driven towards purpose. Look her up. Go find her. We all need a coach. We all deserve a coach in this life that's going to kick our butt and push us and get more out of us than we thought was possible. Go find her. She is a fellow believer and coach in what we do, and a thief as well. I'm taking lots of this from you, and you can have anything from me as well. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.